Hi, I'm Jameson Fleming, the editor-in-chief at MM+M, and I'm here for Agency 100 talking with EvolveMKD and their founder and CEO, Meg Driscoll. EvolveMKD is an independent agency standing out in a landscape crowded by network agencies and complicated by agency mergers. She's here to talk about agency relationships and how being an independent agency is both challenging and rewarding. She'll talk about the benefits of working with an independent agency, and we're excited to do that today. So, Meg, let's start out with what are some of the challenges of being an independent agency these days?
I mean, most of the things about being an independent agency are awesome. You get to choose your clients. I have control over the staff, how I staff up, when I staff up. There are some challenges, though. A lot of folks are locked in with their agency networks or larger agencies, so it can be challenging to break in, even as a female-owned agency. It also can be hard if they're looking for international work. It's not as turnkey with an independent agency. We definitely have to do a little bit more work on our side to find partners that we trust in different areas. So definitely doable, just a little bit more legwork. And we're still newer, a lot of us. So they're still getting the word out there, spreading awareness about how we approach things differently and the different experience you'd have being with an independent agency.
Now, the PR landscape is going to change quite drastically with the mergers happening. What is the opportunity then for an agency like yours?
I think EvolveMKD has a ton of opportunities in the changing landscape. I think number one, with employees, my assumption is that there'll probably be a little bit of streamlining as those two large networks come together. So I think there'll be some fantastic people who maybe have never considered an independent agency who would be more open to trying to work at an independent agency. And we would love to have them at Evolve because we are always looking to hire. And then secondly, there's just so much chaos happening in the world right now that I can imagine for clients to go through a merger on their agency side would just be another kind of chaotic uncertainty to add into the mix, especially when you're talking about large spends. So I think looking at independent agencies could be a nice opportunity for them because you know exactly who you're going to get, the team's not going anywhere, and in a lot of cases, like at EvolveMKD, you actually get the owner involved in your day-to-day business.
Yeah, I mean, there's been reports of, when Omnicom and IPG come together, it could be 7,500 people across that entire holding company. And so what's the pitch to those people of, this is maybe the right place to go next?
Yeah, I think EvolveMKD has a lot of benefits. There are several employees in my agency who actually have phantom stock in the company because eventually, in my perfect world, every employee in my agency would be an owner. I want to be a place where people feel like they are compensated for the work that they put in. And agencies, no matter which agency you're at, it's a lot of work. And so I think this is a nice opportunity that you could never replicate at a holding company or a network, having that opportunity to really have a piece of the business and have a piece of the upside. Plus, again, if you're a senior, like I'm your boss, so there's not decision by committee, there's not a larger board to report to, there's not like some CEO in like Europe, it's me. Yeah. So if there are like things you want to try or stuff you want to experiment on, I always tell my staff I'm open to anything as long as it'll make us money.
Yeah, and what's the message to clients or potential clients out there that are going to see the chaos that will unfold during that merger of, okay, maybe this is the time to maybe look elsewhere?
Yeah, I hear from a lot. We just got done doing two new business events, business development events over the last couple weeks. And I hear from a lot of potential clients that they just feel like they're locked into their network partners. And I think the merger actually provides for those clients a nice excuse or a nice opportunity to kind of date around a little bit when they maybe haven't been able to. Like perhaps they've inherited that network or it's been grandfathered in for years and years and years. And not just EvolveMKD, but there are lots of great independent agencies out there that would jump at the chance to have some of these clients or even a piece of their clients on the roster. So I think this could be a great opportunity for those clients to just explore and kind of avoid some of the chaos in at least like parts of their business.
Yeah. And, from my experience covering agencies and clients will often always say, the saying is you get the agency you deserve, as in the client gets what they deserve. If they treat them poorly, they're going to get a poor experience. So what's your advice to clients of how to get the most out of your agency? What do they need to do right to make sure that their agency partners deliver the best possible outcome?
When I started EvolveMKD, that was one of my pet peeves that I always heard from agency partners like pre-Evolve was they were like, well, I want your A team. Yeah. I want this agency's A team because I know not everyone is an A team. And that's one of the reasons we've kind of had controlled growth is because I want to make sure that every person in my agency is A team. Then no matter which team they work with, they're getting like the top talent. For clients, the advice I would give them is to, really make sure that when they're asking their agencies interview questions, that they're not only focusing on experience in the sector, but they're actually focusing on experience doing those specific executions, right? Because I think industry to industry, there's actually a lot of learnings. And then once you feel confident about the agency's experience, I would ask about senior team turnover. I had someone tell me that, junior people are still exploring themselves or still figuring out. There probably is going to be like a high level of junior level turnover at agencies just because if it's your first job, you have no idea what you want to do, if it's the right fit for you. But really the key is to see what the turnover is at the senior staff level because that's really indicative of how the agency is run and what it's like to work at.
Yeah, and the controlled growth is such a great point because at the network agencies, they will often take any piece of new business because they've got numbers to hit. But as you kind of pointed out, you're probably only going to take on that piece of business if you know you can staff it the way that you actually want to staff it.
I tell people that I'm old school. My initials are on the door, not my full name. So I do feel like when we enter into a client relationship, I've given my word, right? That's my promise that we can deliver for you and we can do what we say we can do. And that is different than a network or a large agency. It's just they have other considerations. We do say no to business if we don't feel comfortable that we can do it. And that's actually the hardest thing about being a business owner, which no one talks about, is having the discipline to say no to money, especially right now. But at the end of the day, this is a long-term play for me. It's not, just having one good year. It's having clients that are with us forever.
So as an independent agency, how has that influenced the types of clients and the relationships that you've been able to build over the years?
I think we've been able to build really deep relationships. I mean, EvolveMKD still gets about 80% of its business through word of mouth and referral. We've had some clients that are on their third or fourth job in the 10 and a half years we've been open, but still with us as their agency. And I think that speaks to not only the work we produce, but how they feel about the relationship. And I think that's the difference. When you're an independent agency, my overhead is very different, how my financial calculations are very different, like what success looks like for me is very different. So I'm able to invest a little bit more. And I always joke that when I was at bigger agencies, sometimes we took clients for love and sometimes we took them for money. At Evolve, I'm very fortunate that we take all of our clients for love.
Yeah. What does that investment look like in the agency? Where are you putting your resources to continue to evolve, no pun intended, but evolve and stay ahead of what clients are looking for?
We've, in the last few years, I've done a lot of investment. So my very first investment hire was our head of research and analytics in 2019. And I joked that I made that investment because I know I'm right, and I just wanted the data to prove it. And that has spanned out where that group now contributes millions of dollars to our bottom line, even though the first year, that person was essentially like a cost center, right? The last couple of years, we've really been focusing on building up our performance marketing capabilities because I think that with the influencer work we do and even the earned media, there's really like a total ecosystem now on how patients and HCPs are learning and the journey they're going through to find out about brands. And so we want to be able to control as many of those channels as we can.
Yeah. And, one of our latest reports showed that after years of last few years clients are spending more and more in omni-channel marketing and starting to go back to IRL sales reps. How are you adjusting? Are you starting to see clients start to almost backtrack in the way that they spend their money? And if so, how are you kind of preparing for that?
I've seen it definitely, to steal your pun, evolve over the last couple of years. You know, there was during COVID that everything should be virtual, we should move away from some of these like old school tactics. And I think now the further away we get from that, there are brands who are still seeing value in the rep, that in office, touch point, some of the in real life. But we never went away from those things. I think there is something to be said about human to human contact. And I think it's just finding the right mix for what the client is looking to do and how they would define success.
In terms of how you're thinking about expanded capabilities to keep up with the market, we've talked a little bit about what you're doing, but what are some of the other areas where you're starting to think about, okay, we should maybe add this part of the business to be able to give a more integrated offering to our clients?
In addition to our public relations, digital marketing, and research and analytics, we've started adding a professional relations capability. We get asked a lot for kind of HCP branding, how brands should be talking to HCPs, even the consumer space, so beyond healthcare. And what started to come out of that very naturally is handling speaker trainings, ad boards, KOL development. So that's been something exciting that we're really looking to continue to expand.
Well, thank you so much for the conversation. I always love digging into the agency model, and especially, dissecting indie agencies versus holding companies, because it's such a fascinating world. So thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was Meg Driscoll, the CEO and founder of EvolveMKD. And we're here talking about independent agencies for MM+M's Agency 100, which will be out on June 10th. For MM+M, I'm Jameson Fleming.